Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Young here, and today I'm back on our Fortnite video. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about if 60 Hz to 144 Hz or to 240 Hz is really worth it. And as well, I'm going to fully explain what those mean. For those of you guys who are not completely sure exactly what those mean or how they work, I'm going to fully explain that as well in this video. And before we get into the video, up on the screen I have the V-Buck giveaway winner for this week. Thank you guys so much for all you guys who entered into the giveaway. And if you guys didn't win this week, I do V-Buck giveaways every single week. And to enter the giveaway, it's very simple. All you guys have to do, drop a like on this video, make sure you guys subscribe to my channel and as well subscribe to my second channel. I post a ton of really good content on there, so make sure you guys do subscribe. Turn on my post notifications and as well leave a comment down below of your Xbox gamer tag, your PSN gamer tag, or Epic account. And if you guys would like to support me as a creator in the item shop, all you have to do is go over to the item shop, go into the bottom right hand corner, support a creator, and type in my code. My code is Young Humor. Type it in and you guys will have me supported as a creator. And alright guys, let's get to the video. Alright, so in this video, I'm going to fully explain the difference between a 60 Hz monitor, or playing on 60 frames, playing on 144 frames, and as well playing on 240 frames. I think it's something that's really important to talk about, and really a big difference in between when it comes to PC gaming and when it comes to console gaming when you're playing on Fortnite. So for those of you guys who are playing on console, so if you're playing on Xbox, you're playing on PS4, you guys are going to be playing on 60 FPS or 60 Hertz. And just the reason for that is consoles are capped at 60 FPS. And one thing that I wanted to talk about that's actually pretty cool is pretty soon, I'm not sure exactly when the release date is, Xbox started talking about they're going to release a new Xbox, a new console, and that console is going to support frames up to 120, which is double the rate that you guys are currently playing on for those of you guys who do play on console, which is absolutely insane. There's a huge difference between 60 FPS and 120 FPS. So when it comes to the hertz, basically all of it is your monitor's refresh rate. So pretty much if you play on a monitor that's 240 hertz and you're playing on console, it doesn't really do anything. It has no difference because the only thing you can go up to is 60. So even if you have a 240 hertz monitor and you're playing on console, it's not going to have any effect whatsoever because you're only going to be able to see 60 FPS. But otherwise, if you had a 240 hertz monitor and you played on PC and your PC can run up to those frames, it can run 240 frames, then you're going to be able to see the 240 FPS on your monitor because your monitor supports it and your PC can run it. But like I said, for those of you guys who play on console, it really doesn't make that huge of a difference, and pretty much every single monitor that you can get is going to at least go at 60 Hertz. So some even come at 75, but pretty much the lowest you can get is 60. So if you grab a monitor and you play on console, there's really no point of getting a 240 Hertz monitor if you play on console because it really wouldn't affect you at all. There's nothing they can do because if you can only see 60 FPS, 60 frames, running above that isn't going to do anything. You're not going to see any more unless you do plan on switching to PC that can run a little bit more frames. Or if you get the new Xbox that comes out whenever it does, then you're going to be able to run up to 120 FPS. And I'm sure PS4 will eventually come out with something as well that supports that kind of frames. But that's such a huge difference. So I really want to talk about the kind of difference between 60 FPS and 140 FPS and 240 FPS. And so when it comes to the difference, and that's really probably one of the main, or probably one of the only reasons I end up switching to PC and controller, and as well why everyone else does, because when you're playing on PC is a little bit stronger, it's a lot stronger than playing on console, so you can run at higher FPS. And so if you're running a higher FPS, if you're running most PCs can run a pretty high FPS depending on how good they are. Mine can run up to about like 270 or something like that, which I don't really need because my monitor right now is 144 Hertz. So even if my PC or my frames are on 240, I can only see up to 144 because that's my monitor's refresh rate, and you can't have more FPS in your monitor's refresh rate, which is the hertz. So even though I have 144 hertz, I can't see above that, so I cap my FPS at about 160 because I can't see above that anyways. And for those of you guys who are watching this video right here, the gameplay that you're seeing is going to be in 60 frames, and that's just how it's recorded. Pretty much every YouTube video, it's capped at 60 frames. You can have 1080p at 60 frames. If you go above that, it really would just be too hard to load, so YouTube actually doesn't support that. So the max you can have is 60 frames. So every YouTube video you watch is going to be in 60 frames. So even though I'm running 140, say if I even run 240 frames, you're not going to be able to see it. Only you guys can see up to 60. So even though me myself, I'm playing in 144, you can't actually see exactly how good it is. But as far as the difference between 60, 144, and 240, and like I said, there's also monitors that can go up to about 75 hertz, which I don't really, it's pretty much the same thing as 60. There's not really that much of a difference, not really that noticeable. You're not really going to tell too much of a difference between that. It's like the difference between 120 and 130, 135. There's not going to be that much of a difference, and if you want a bigger difference, then you're going to have to go from a 60 to a 144, which is exactly what I did and what most people do. Some people go above and go to a 240, but I'm going to explain exactly why, if you do plan on going a little bit higher, to go with a 144 instead of a 240 hertz monitor. And the main reason being is just because of the pricing. It's a lot more expensive, and when it comes to the difference between the different hertz monitors, the difference between 60 and 144 is absolutely crazy, and trust me, it's one of those things that you just have to experience to really know how good it is. And it's just also one of those things where if you play on 144, if you play on the better frame rates and then you go back to a 60 FPS, it looks absolutely terrible. And for those of you guys who played competitive or arena mode, you know how in the end game it's like super framey, super lagging, it looks absolutely terrible. That's like the first time that I played on 144. I played on it for like 2 weeks, and then I went back to 60 FPS. That's pretty much the equivalent of what it looked like to me, because I was just so used to seeing 144 frames that when I went down to all the way back to 60, it looked absolutely terrible. It looked like my game was lagging. I thought something was wrong, but it really was just the frame rate being very, very low than what I was used to. Because when you're on console, you don't really notice it. It looks completely normal. But when you play in those higher frame rates and then you go back to 60, trust me, it's absolutely terrible. I would not recommend it. It's almost impossible to play. You have to relearn the game. It's so bad. So playing Fortnite on 144 frames is highly recommended. I would say definitely play on it if you can. But like I said at the beginning, if you play on console, the max you can play on is 60. So there's no way to actually go above and play on the frame rate that I do unless you switch to a PC. But the reason why, even if your PC can run a ton more frames, the reason why I wouldn't go for a 240 above a 144, just for the simple reason it's way more expensive. You're paying a good extra 150, more likely like $200 more for it. And as well, the people that I've talked to, they said it's not that big of a difference. And just because the numbers, 100 higher, it doesn't really make that ton of a difference. The best comparison that I can really think of when it comes to switching from 60 to 144 is, for instance, like watching this video or this YouTube video in 480p, watch it for a few seconds and then switch it to 1080p. That's pretty much the equivalent when it comes to 144 versus 60, and trust me, that's exactly what it feels like. But when it comes to going from 144 to 240, it's kind of the equivalent of 1080p and then like 4K. It's not really the best example, but it's kind of like one of those things, because if you're on like 180 already, it's already super clear, it's super crisp. You really don't need to go any higher. It's kind of unnecessary, but yeah, you can go a little bit higher. But the difference between 480 and 1080p is huge, but the difference between 480 and 4K is really not that much, and of course you're going to be paying a lot more money for it, so it's really just not worth it. I would just go with a 144 in my opinion, just for that reason. It's a ton more expensive, and it's really not worth the cost of the difference. And for the people that I've known that have had on 240, they said it's really not worth the cost either. They didn't really get too much out of it. So if you do switch to PC and you want to play on a higher frame rate, you have to get a monitor that also supports the higher frame rate. So you have to get a higher hertz monitor. And so I would recommend a 144, because 240 is just way too expensive and you're not really getting, what's worth the price. But as far as console, you're kind of stuck at 60, which really sucks, because 60 FPS, it's not like really bad, but if you play with higher frame rates and you go back to it, it's absolutely terrible. But if you do end up switching, 144 hertz is definitely the move. And on top of that, like I said, if you're on 144 hertz, you just want to cap your FPS at 160, because you can't see above that anyways, so there's no point of having it higher. You're not going to see any difference.